if the team member cannot do that, and you're spending too much time thinking about them, talking to them, walking through it with them, and managing them to get the end result you're looking for, they're probably a C player. Welcome to another episode of the Overlap Podcast. And if you're just tuning in for the first time or coming back, it's been a little while. Let me remind you that the Overlap Podcast, we discuss and study the overlaps between work, fitness, family, faith, parenting, and leadership. And we do this with the idea that becoming better in one aspect of your life helps you become better in all aspects of your life. And we're doing that by simplifying big business ideas, or brilliance, if you will, for small business leaders. Through the lessons of business, we are passionate about helping entrepreneurs make a difference in their communities and their businesses and their families. So that's our motivation here. That's our goal. And hopefully we are doing that with now that we're hitting our stride after over 150 episodes. So thanks for tuning in and thanks for being here. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning. See ya.
I sort of held up a little bit because I know Tim doesn't like us saying that, but that's okay.
I know. I think he's been editing it out anyway.
Oh, that's okay then. Well, I'll just say whatever I want then.
That's right. He is the, he'll put something in.
Oh, okay.
I noticed you sounded like Bugs Bunny last
Did I?
Yeah,
Wow.
He may have put something in
That's
there.
one of the benefits of never listening to our podcast. So I don't have to relive any embarrassing moments. All right. So
I had a sustainability summit yesterday.
don't just come right out with that. I thought we were going to build up to it.
I knew it was coming. I just called it out.
Golly, I'm glad I wasn't taking a drink. Could you tell me what a sustainability summit is? I'm, for the layman, me.
It is the S in ESG.
I'm unfamiliar with ESG.
Yeah, well, I know you sent that yesterday.
Yeah,
but
all I did was see you eat.
Yeah,
I got photos of you eating.
I did eat quite a bit. And, if you've heard the election and been in the news media leading up to it, you saw a lot about equal opportunity and sustainability. And so it's a topic right now in the corporate space.
Okay.
How to be sustainable. How do we save the earth? What do we do to make better use of resources?
Okay.
And so yesterday in Mobile, there was the Southern Company, all the big companies. So basically everyone's trying to be better stewards of our world.
Environment.
Yeah.
ESG is environmental, sustainability, and governance.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And so,
what's the governance?
I think everybody. So I have a friend who has a ESG kind of consultancy.
Okay.
And he explained that we get caught up in that equality part a lot, but really companies care more about the S and the G, the governance and the sustainability. We all know that we need to give rights to everyone.
Okay.
And everyone should have, equal opportunity.
Sure.
But I think companies struggle more with the governance and the sustainability. How do we be better stewards of what we've been given, and how do we steward the resources that we take from the earth and the environment, and how do we do that better?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. And so this summit was about that.
Well, riveting. I'm glad.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you were there.
It was riveting.
Yeah.
I basically provided the booze.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I meant, I sponsored the cocktail hour.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
And I would expect nothing less from you.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Now I think after I was at that summit that you need to take all of your trucks to EVs.
To EVs? Well,
yeah.
It's funny. I've actually been working on that for like 2 years.
Really?
Yeah, just having an all-electric crew I had it for a little while. The guys hated it though, where we just had battery packs for everything.
Yeah.
Like
And
weed eaters, edgers, blowers. And I
So-
think they work great. But
okay, well, so I have a Stihl gas-powered blower.
Oh, well, yeah.
Stephanie just got one of those new cool Ego battery packs.
Yeah.
The gas one's way better.
It's way stronger for sure.
Yeah, way better.
Yeah. It is. The mowers are pretty good. They're just so expensive. They're twice the price of a regular gas-powered mower. And I don't know, so I'm still working on it. I had a whole idea that you could have like, sun, like panels on the roof, and you could have, a battery bank that are tied into an outlet that you can plug up at night. It charges them all. You could have 2 batteries for every piece of equipment. It could be running through a power inverter as you're driving down the road, and charging it that way. I don't know. I can't get the truck electric, but you can get it, I don't know, hybrid maybe. They haven't really made those yet. So been working on it.
However, there was this trucking company yesterday at the Sustainability Summit that is doing short run, all electric runs.
What kind of trucks are you using? Those Tesla trucks?
No, they're using the other company that's come out. I can't remember the name of it, but I'd heard of it also.
Rivian?
No, okay. It's not that. It's a big truck.
Okay.
So they're going to do like the port. So the port of Mobile also has like a sustainability statement saying that they're going to get better at that.
Gotcha.
Stuff. And so they're putting a lot of money into providing their suppliers with the resources to get compliant.
Oh, good times.
And then I learned yesterday that and we may have Kai on the podcast one day.
Okay.
Because it's actually pretty interesting. Like all of us need a sustainability statement in some way. And they talked about how that, our view of how we're going to contribute socially to a better environment should be in some of our verbiage. And so this marketing guy was there and he talked about that.
Okay.
Which I actually really enjoyed that part. Because I care about the environment. I just don't know, how much impact I actually have on it. Other than and they talked about that too, is we should know the impact we're having.
And maybe we'll talk to Kai.
Yeah, and we'll have Kai in one day to let him break this down because it's not as scary and it's not as political and it's not as he's like ease my anxiety over these words, like DEI and ESG and all of that. Really good. He's really good at doing.
I don't know that I have the mental capacity to go into DEI today.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, it's been hyper political here over the last couple of weeks, so I'm good to take a breath.
Yeah, but I think everyone should be versed in it in some way, which, as you can tell, I am not.
Yeah, me neither.
And so I'm trying.
At least
you
went to the conference. Supported the booze.
I did.
Yeah. All right. So another business aspect would be team members, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah, we can forget creating a sustainability clause if we have a bunch of these people.
Yeah. So, Keith and I talk about episodes, and we really do try to come up with topics that maybe you don't get, or maybe you get in a different fashion from other podcasts that are really more big business centered. And minus the sustainability conference talk we just had for the last 10 minutes, most of our stuff is kind of is geared towards, small business. And, I kind of define a small business of any business with like 150 or less employees. Medium-sized business, 150 to 500, something like that. I can't remember what the SBA says. But if you've got 150, if you've got 10 employees, you're probably not thinking about sustainability, but you probably are thinking about team members a lot because with those team members, you are really close to the end product. And, and really close to their performance affecting you directly. And what we want to talk to you about and have a discussion about are C players, and what they are, what they look like, how do you manage them, and then ultimately, how can you kind of identify them on the front end?
I kind of like how, when we brainstorm and we come up with like the topics that we're going to talk about. You wrote this a long couple weeks ago.
Yeah, this is probably a month ago.
Yeah, C players are the worst.
They're the worst.
Because quite frankly, they're sometimes early on, they're hard to identify.
They are very hard to identify. That's why they're the worst. They're the worst. Yeah. They look the part. They sound the part. Most of the time, they're humble. And you keep thinking that if I just coach them a little bit more, and maybe I didn't say enough, maybe I wasn't clear enough, maybe I'm not doing my part, maybe I'm adding I'm adding to the problem by not being clear, whatever. But ultimately, whenever you hire someone, and listen to this. I don't know that people get this lesson early on in business. And sometimes you have to be reminded if you've been in business for a while. The only reason you hire anyone on your team is to produce an end result. Consistently, predictably, regularly, without a whole lot of input from you. It should free you up. If you cannot, if the team member cannot do that, and you're spending too much time, what's too much time? I think that's up to you. Too much time thinking about them, talking to them, walking through it with them, and managing them to get the end result you're looking for, they're probably a C player. Because if they were an F player or a D player, you would have already gotten rid of them. They would be turning in subpar performance all the time consistently, or off track, off time, off budget, whatever. But C players kind of hit the mark, all the time. Which, what I'm saying is that they just put in a C performance, and it's a struggle to get it to the C performance all the time. And you just can't ever get them above that. It's tough.
Very rarely am I blown away by things that you say.
Uh-oh.
And things you string together. But that was one of the best minutes of proliferation on what a C player is that I've ever heard.
I'm blown away you used the word proliferation.
Well, I felt like I should.
That was great.
But that was excellent.
Oh, well, thank you,
That
sir.
was like mic drop.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I don't know how to move on from that. I feel like we should just stop right now because it's going to go downhill. But C players are the worst, guys. You probably have some. You probably got 2 or 3. Once we were talking about it, hey, hell, maybe I've been a C player before in the past.
Well, I think we all have, in certain ways. But one of the differentiations I think we need to make is a C player versus a con man.
Yeah, you made this point when we were talking, and you're absolutely right.
Because a lot of times we would think that someone would be a C player would know it, but very rarely did they realize it.
Right. They don't realize it. They,
definitely, I've hired con men before that said,
I have too.
That said, I can accomplish this goal.
Yeah.
And purposefully knew that they couldn't accomplish that.
Yeah.
But most of the time,
yeah,
the people that I've brought on my team that were C players had no idea they were.
Mm-hmm.
They thought they could do it and had good intention. C players normally have great intentions.
Yeah.
So I do want to make that differentiation.
That's a really, really good point. And I think that your team members' performance, whether it be A, B, C, D, or F, I think can be dynamic too. So what I mean by that is you can have an A player up to a certain level, and many times A players get elevated or they help the business grow. And then once the business grows to a certain level, the position becomes too complex and too dynamic for them, and they slip into being a C player.
Yeah,
that can be real difficult.
So I can absolutely tell you I've been a C player.
Okay.
In the corporate world. What do they do to good salespeople?
Oh, they make them the sales manager. Yeah.
That's what they did to me.
Yeah.
At 28 years old, managing people that were 50.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes that works, but it didn't with me.
Yeah, and sales managers are a way different beast than a sales assassin,
Correct.
And sales assassin get all the praise.
Yep. But the sales manager is the one that wrangles them in.
Yeah, they're the data-driven, analytical thinker that is process-driven, and they help the salespeople stay focused because salespeople are like squirrels,
Yeah.
Squirrels are going to find a nut.
The reason that I was a sales assassin is because I had a good sales manager. Her name was Lee.
Okay.
And she knew I was young, and she knew I was crazy, and she knew that I needed to be brought back into focus. And so good sales management is basically taking a bunch of like crazy people and putting them in a focused attention.
Yeah. What's on your list this week? Who are your top targets? How many contacts are you going to make? Okay. We're going to talk next week. Let's see how you do with that. And then that I'm just taking all the things in your head and I'm giving you 3, 4, 5 things to think about.
Yeah, she would give me to-do list, which would be go here, do this, talk to this person. And so then when it became my time to do that, being that I didn't have that ability,
just didn't work well.
It didn't work well. And so a lot of times I would say that it's our fault, especially when you're talking about moving someone through your organization, when we think that they have the goods and they end up not having the goods.
Yeah.
We've put them in that position.
Yeah. So C players are rather difficult to identify. And that's why I say they're the worst. They're not bad people. C players are not out to try to get you. They're not trying to lie about their abilities. They actually are trying to do the job to the best of their ability. Most C players and the ones that I'm thinking of are just honest, good, hardworking people. They're just incapable of executing the job to produce the result that you're looking for. And so all of those good characteristics, those attributes that you feel, and even education and prior experience and all of the things on paper seem to direct you to think and feel that this person should be able to get this if I just package this a little better, if I just coach them a little harder, if I just go on ride-alongs with them or whatever it is, I can change this person is really what it boils down to. And C players ultimately, some maybe can elevate, but we're not talking about those. What we're talking about are the ones that cannot. And so that's they're difficult to identify. They're difficult to deal with. They're difficult to get out of the organization too.
Right. I was going to say we tend to keep them around too long.
Way too long. Because they're good people. The ones that I'm thinking about
and they have good intentions.
Oh, they do. They've got good intentions. They will fall on their sword. They will do anything you ask them to do. They just can't consistently execute the role. So we've got some good notes on this.
We do. The identification portion is really good here.
Yeah, you take the lead.
So performance.
Yeah.
C players often struggle to meet performance expectations.
Yeah. And I think it's good that we're starting with performance and just going back to that earlier statement. That's the whole reason that they're there. Man, I say this a lot. Oftentimes people think that this is my job, this is my job. No. If you are an owner, and if you're not an owner and you're listening to this, maybe change your mindset. That role that you're in right now is not your role. You are allowed to stay in that and keep getting the paycheck as long as you perform. So we're starting with this with performance. The only way that a company can pay you is if you produce the results. And if you don't produce the results, we can't produce the income that ultimately makes it to you. So performance is the number one indicator. And it sounds harsh and it sounds hard. And you're like, oh, you're going to take my job away. No. Not your job. It's my job. It's my job that I give to you. as long as the performance. We have an agreement that I will pay you X if you perform Y. And I think that gets missed in all employment relationships. It really is performance driven. So sorry, I cut you off.
No, that was great. And then, they typically lack motivation and initiatives. But maybe, and when I read this, I was like, well, maybe they lack the motivation and initiative because they know they're not performing.
Yeah.
And a lot of times lack of performance will deteriorate both of those things.
Yeah, it will bring you down. One of the things that on that performance portion was C players often struggle to meet performance expectations, and this was the kicker for me, and may require detailed instructions for tasks which they still might not complete correctly.
Yep.
I think that's one of the telltale signs of a C player is when you start talking about performance in a one-on-one or review, they start grasping for more details, more data. I think if you've got the right person in the right seat, you should be able to give them guardrails and say, hey, I want you to operate within these parameters here. I want you to do these activities this amount of time, and really what we're looking for is this end result. If you put the right person in the right seat, they go and run with it, and they're going to come up with probably a better way of executing the result than I'm going to come up with. Does that make sense? They're going to get in there and they're going to work. It might take them 3 months, but eventually after 90 days, they're executing on a consistent basis. And instead of, this many activities, they've done more or less or different, but they're producing the result maybe even better. That's the right person in the right seat. When you start talking performance and they start going, oh, I wasn't clear about that. I really, we don't have a good SOP for this or whatever. My spidey senses have been tuned to this to go, oh, this is what we're dealing with. Okay. If you're the right person, I don't need to give you an SOP for that. You're not going to follow that anyways. You're not going to break that thing out in the middle of a meeting on 2:00 on Wednesday and say, yeah, what's the SOP say on this? You're not. But you're not performing, so you want to blame something or someone, and let's blame it on the SOP. That's my riff on that. I could be wrong.
I don't know that any task that's ever been in front of me in the professional world that I broke out the SOP.
Or studied it.
It. Let me pull that up.
Now, there are things that quarterly training on how to do this or monthly training, how to do that. It's a good reminder, and it allows me to be more proficient and efficient. And it's a good reminder that I might be skipping some steps that would ultimately make my job easier. Those have happened, but I'm still going to produce the result. I might just have to work a little longer, a little harder, and I could be a little more efficient doing other things other ways. So, moving on. Sorry.
Yeah, the lack of motivation, I think, comes. Have you ever had a team member that I just had this happen.
Okay.
Really stupid questions about the task that you're giving them.
Give me an example.
To stall.
Oh, to stall. Okay.
And maybe it is that I've not communicated properly. But once I know that I've communicated in a way that they should be able to get it, then the stupid questions come. And I'm like, you just don't want to do this. And I think that's where the lack of motivation seems to be coming in.
Maybe they don't want to do the hard work. Maybe they don't want to have the hard conversation. Maybe they don't want to go out and grind. I don't know. But I get what you're saying. And then they'll ask for something to stall, to sort of put off the hard thing that they're trying to avoid. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So the questions arise that really they should have grasped by now.
If you're a small business owner looking to take your business to the next level, listen up. My good friend Chris Francis has spent over 20 years growing his tree care business to national success. Now he's partnered with Rick Miller, you've probably heard him here on the podcast before, Harvard MBA, and business consultant to create Roadmap for Growth, an online course to help you scale, build teams, and create systems that last. It's not just for the tree industry. This course applies to any small service business. Check out treebusiness.com or hit the link on the Overlap homepage to learn more.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about my friend Wes Cody. He's the president of C2 Wealth Strategies, a financial advisory firm dedicated to providing personalized solutions for your financial needs. Wes and his team of professionals are passionate about helping clients create wealth and achieve financial freedom. At C2 Wealth Strategies, they believe in taking a holistic approach to financial planning and are committed to building long-lasting relationships with their clients, ensuring their financial well-being every step of the way. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Contact Wes and C2 Wealth today at c2wealth.com to schedule a consultation. Let Wes and his team help you build your financial future.
What else you got besides motivation, performance and motivation?
Accountability.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's always somebody else's fault.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
When they seem blocked, they blame others instead of asking for help, typically. So instead of saying, hey, I really don't know what in the heck I'm doing, they say, hey, this is your fault. I didn't get this done.
Gotcha. So they don't raise their hand and say, hey, I'm struggling over here.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, when the deadline shows up, it's someone else's fault.
Someone else's fault. The sales team didn't do what they were supposed to.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't have done that because I didn't have a good project folder.
Yeah.
Or I didn't know that that's what you wanted from me.
Right.
Or I would have gotten it done, but, Jimmy didn't turn anything into me on time. Yeah, I can see that, man. Accountability. I like that, not my company, not that, but if I can pick up on not my company, not my problem, that's probably that's a C player.
Yeah.
Not my company, not my problem. And they may not say that directly. They may say it directly. I've actually heard that before in the hallways.
Have you heard? I just work here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I get it. That's part of like, it's part of like worker culture. So it doesn't make me mad. It doesn't like enrage me or anything, but it does help me think that this probably isn't the right person. And maybe in my company meetings and when you got all staff and stuff like that, maybe you need to address it. Maybe no one's ever said, hey, it is your company and it is your problem because, again, the only way the company pays you is if we execute. We've got happy customers happily writing checks to pay us. If that doesn't happen, then you have to be let go. So then it actually does become your problem. Now, if you do execute at a very high level, the company will grow and then you've got more resources. You've got more resource to have better equipment. You've got better tools. You got better software. It makes your job a little easier. You probably add some people underneath you and you're making more money. It all works by your intentionality in this role that you have. Everyone has so much more control over their future, whether they own the business or they're just working in it, than anyone ever realizes. And lots of people will just abdicate that responsibility and say, not my company, not my problem. Which, God, what a limiting thought that is. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Not my company, not my problem. And maybe, man, I'm saying all this right now, and I'm actually kind of thinking of the other side of it. Maybe work is just a means to an end, and what they really like doing is going camping, or what they really want to do is, coach soccer or something. I'm throwing things out there. Well, they're just working for a means.
Now, let me say one of my pet peeves too is when a operator or a owner expects their employees, their team members, to have as much intensity as they do.
No, yeah, I totally get that.
Like, you cannot take someone that has been an employee all of their life and wants to be an employee team member. Mm-hmm. They don't want to own their own deal because they don't want the pressure that comes with the intensity that you have to be an owner or an operator.
Yeah.
So I get that.
I totally get that.
I love those people. I need those people to work
We have
with
a few of those, and I kind of protect them because people are like, oh, we got, this person doesn't want to elevate. And I'm like, no. We need Indians. This guy is an Indian. And I'm not trying to offend any Indians. I actually have an Indian card if you want to see it. Cherokee, 1/16.
Yeah, I mean,
I probably could have got college paid for, but
I mean, Oklahoma,
I've been to some powwows.
Yeah.
I've been to quite a few.
Yeah.
Okay. Either way, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I think I was saying that too earlier, and you said it way more succinctly, that you can't expect everyone to have the same burning desire that you have as the owner. What you can do, though, is go, well, you can't be in a position of leadership if all you want to be is an Indian. Totally got that.
Correct.
That's going to come at a certain level of pay, though, that people aren't always okay with. And so you can't have it both ways. You can't be just the Indian, but still get paid to be a chief.
Correct.
So,
but I am totally okay when someone comes to me and says, hey, bro, I just want to work here.
Totally fine.
Hey, give me a job to do and let me go do that.
Yeah. And I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally good with that. We've got a few of those, and I love those people. And maybe those people have it figured out.
Yeah.
Maybe those people have it figured out. That is not me. Clearly.
Yeah,
no. But maybe they're just happier people. I don't know how to rewire myself.
No, I don't either.
So there's that. So you've got performance, motivation, accountability. What else?
Then, I mean, of course, when you have all of that and you have all of the issues with performance, motivation, and accountability, it's going to impact the team that they work with.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I was just thinking about this. Have you ever had a C player that worked with you that you liked and you covered their, and they impacted the team and you didn't see it?
Yeah. No, yeah. I probably saw it and I looked over it.
Yeah, me too.
I swept it under the rug because some of them might have been very talented in a certain way. Some of it I might have just liked personally and we were friends. That really negatively affects the morale of everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, so-and-so is only turning in that level of performance and nothing's happened to them. I guess I'm going to drop mine because good performance isn't rewarded and bad performance is looked over.
Right. Huh. And then all the good team members standing behind them resented that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's bad.
It happens all the time. So I think one of the crucial kind of cues if someone's a C player is when it starts impacting the team.
Yeah.
And when that little murmuring starts happening behind them saying, hey, John is doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, what's John doing?
Yeah. You better be reading the tea leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a signal to all of us that we need to be having conversations with other team members around the team. Because you'll get some feedback like that because man, this right here, and you hit the nail on the head. Have you ever had team members that are C players, but you liked personally or liked, I don't know, whatever, had some relationship or you haven't identified or you just kept thinking you could do something with them. You didn't really address it head on. It starts affecting the morale of the team. If you're having conversations with other folks, you'll hear about it. They won't be overt, but they'll be like, hey, what's going on with blah, blah, blah. Oh, did you see that deal? Have you heard? But did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you wonder,
what are they
why
saying?
does John seem to be having trouble with his teammates?
Yeah. Well, because he's a C freaking player. He's not turning in good work and it's affecting us all.
Yep.
Yeah. And man, we probably need to link to Nick Saban's speech on high performers. Have you ever heard? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Dude, it's fantastic.
It's excellent.
And I'll paraphrase this, but I have become, and I have been for like the last 5 years at least, once I got over the fact that he coached the University of Alabama for so many years. But he's the GOAT, dude. He's the absolute GOAT, and he's probably one of the best performance coaches there has ever been. And his statement is that high performers hate mediocre people, and mediocre people hate high performers. You can never have alignment and a culture. You can't build a culture without alignment behind what the standards are. Uh-oh. Keith is pulling it up. I don't know that that's it. Oh, is that just the band? Oh, dear God. Back to Nick Saban, though. He really is right. You cannot build a culture. You cannot build a team without alignment around what the standards are and what the goals are and what excellence looks like, and everyone's striving for it. If you have a bunch of mediocre people in there, it will drag down the performance of everyone, and it will mess up the harmony in the team 100%. And that's not from me. That's from Nick Saban.
So we identify people have lack of performance, lack of motivation, lack of accountability. It starts impacting our team.
Mm-hmm.
I like this word. I'm going to start using this word. How do we manage out a C player?
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. Number one, you have to have the mindset, and I think most people do, unless they're just afraid of having hard conversations. If you're afraid of having hard conversations, you need to just suck it up, because if you don't have the hard conversation, who will? It's not going to magically fix itself. So you have to have the conversation, be specific. You got to do it with the right temperament too. If you come in too aggressive, the message is missed. You have to have the mindset that I'm going to go in and coach this person. It's going to be a hell of a lot easier if I can get this person from being a C player to being a B+. They don't have to be an A. Not everyone has to be an A, but I need them at least performing at this B+ level so I can continue to pay them. And you gotta make sure that you have the mindset too that people have the right of choice. As long as I'm clear, everyone's got they've got the right to choose whether they execute on that stuff or not. And that's not my, I don't have any part in that. As long as I'm clear, as long as I give the parameters, and as long as I give them a clear picture of what the outcome looks like that we're looking for, then it's up to them.
We've been saying this a lot, and I love it. It's kind of like you're saying about that numbers are the language of business. You've been saying to be unclear is to be unkind.
Yeah. It really is.
I've written that in my soul lately and just been having hard conversations with everybody.
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah.
It's, you're a better parent if you have hard conversations.
I'll be real honest with you. Since you and I have started talking about this more, I've been misunderstood a lot less.
There we go. That's good.
Maybe if you're being misunderstood, business leader, you're not being clear.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe if you feel misunderstood, you're not being clear.
Yeah. Well, I think it all starts with, are you having regular one-on-ones with this direct report? Are you building a good enough rapport that you can have hard conversations and it not feel like a struggle? You don't want to call someone into your office only to complain at them. Are you having a conversation maybe it's every 2 weeks, maybe it's once a month, maybe it's weekly.
Well, I would venture to say, if you want to build a great team, you better be building the credibility with the individual to be able to have a hard conversation that gets any action.
There you go.
Because if you don't build the credibility, your hard conversation is just going to make them pissed.
Yeah, and I think we're saying the same thing when I say no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Correct.
So you could come in and fly in and bitch at them and just say, I've been doing this for 20 years and blah, 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 blah. But they don't really care about that. They want you to know that you want them to be successful. And I was actually talking about this yesterday at that an energy meeting over in Mobile. That's the EOS networking and resource group that we do. We were talking about rocks, and I think rocks are a great leadership tool because it allows me to have a conversation with whoever is directly reporting to me about their rocks, because that is ultimately going to help them become successful. It's a little bit outside their day-to-day. It's something that they can't do over a week. It might take a month. It might take all quarter. But this is a rock. It's very important that they get it done. And if I can help them get that done, think through it, build some skills, block their calendar off, whatever, work with them on the problem, they advance. And in doing so, they understand that I want them to be successful. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if you're having one-on-ones with people on a pretty regular routine basis, and you're going over whatever metrics, whatever performance metrics that they have, maybe there's some activity metrics in there too, and you're talking about, whatever it is that they need to do to be successful, they start to inherently understand that you want them to be successful. It doesn't hurt that you actually say, I want you to be successful. Because if you're a leader and you're hiring people, why wouldn't you want them to be successful?
Right.
Yeah. And if you're a leader and you're honest with yourself, have you ever thought about, this sounds all religious and I kind of get uncomfortable saying this, but it really is the deal. Why did God put them in your path anyways? Is it to have some influence? Is it to have an impact in their life? I would say so. And if I'm going to do that, through the lens of business, perhaps I help them to be more organized. Perhaps I help them to be a better communicator. Perhaps I help them to have conversations and get out of their comfort zone to do more, to be better. And then that should transcend into other aspects of life. There's a whole podcast about it. It's called The Overlap. You should listen. And that's where I think the leadership comes in. And if that comes out of you when you're having those one-on-ones, it becomes a little bit easier to start dialing up the pressure when they're not performing. You know what I'm saying? And so if you're gonna have a C player and you're gonna start a performance enhancement program or improvement program, a PIP, if you will, then you need to record some specific examples of underperformance and problematic behaviors.
And like we say all the time, you're holding them back from being who they need to be anyway.
Right. Right.
Like it's your fault.
Yeah.
Like you keep an underperformer around, they're underperforming and they don't have any other outstanding circumstances.
Yeah.
And they lack all the stuff we just talked about, motivation, accountability, all of that.
Yeah.
They don't want to be there anyway.
They don't. And they might not have the wherewithal to say, I need to just go find a different place to work. Maybe you can help them with that.
Or maybe they just don't want the hassle. They're getting a check.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So record specific examples of underperformance and problematic behaviors if you're trying to manage C players towards better performance or ultimately managing them out. You're trying to make it to be an easy conversation at the end of the road. If you got to let them go or help them transition, if you got to help them transition, or the alternative, which would be very nice, is they start performing at a high level. It's all the same thing.
Yep.
What else you got?
Well, I think that's really the determination that you can tell someone is not a C player when you have hard conversations with them and then they change behavior.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, maybe you were just unclear. Maybe they didn't understand the importance of executing that outcome.
So communicating clearly, I think, is super important as their manager or owner. You got to make sure that you are clear first.
Yeah, and I think the temperament is right. It is important to get it right in this scenario where there's a difference between saying, hey, this is the third time we've talked about, I need you to execute these things. And if we can't get this right, I want to make sure that we're clear about this. This is the only way that we pay you and pay you in this role. So hitting these performance metrics is absolutely unquestionable. This is a non-negotiable thing. It has to be done. Now, you will run into issues and you will run into some obstacles, and I'm happy to help you overcome those. But ultimately, that's the job, is seeing those obstacles, overcoming them, and still producing the outcome that is required in this role. So I don't want to make you unjustifiably nervous, but I want to make sure that we're clear about this, that if you can't execute this, I'm going to have to find someone that can. And I like you personally. So I want you to do well here. And so feel free to, ask me questions, and I'm happy to work with you after hours if you need that, but because I want you to be successful, but I ultimately need to make sure that you and your role produce this outcome.
You know how I know that Lee was a good sales manager, the sales manager I talked about for my very first job?
How's that?
Because she did all of these things. We documented performance issues, because I had some. She communicated clearly. And then the next one is the key in good leadership. And this is where most leaders fail.
Okay.
Is where's the action plan?
Yeah.
How do I communicate? Okay, this is how we get back on track. And here are the markers that you have to hit to get back on track in this position. So creating an action plan, and I remember to this day, she would sit down with me and say, here's your plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that plan made me a killer. Like it
worked.
Yeah, it worked.
Good. Yeah. I think that's way better than being a Nike boss.
Yeah.
You know what a Nike boss is?
No.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Definitely
so.
You don't help them get a plan and see you should be able to help the person create a yellow brick road to Oz. This is the plan. This is how you get to Oz, They should be able to see it. And all they've got to do is just take the steps. Maybe they got to get past the flying monkeys or whatever, I can't remember that movie, but there were flying monkeys, right?
Yeah, some kind of monkeys.
It was weird. There were monkeys. But I digress. There's obstacles in the way to getting to Oz, but you just stay on the yellow brick road, and you'll ultimately get there. So that's good.
I don't think you can be clear without having a plan for them.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing you could do is just say, just be better.
Yeah, just do it. Just be better.
Just be better.
Yeah. And that's a Nike boss. Just do it. And that can, look, I've been that for sure.
Yeah. Because think about how it applies to jiu-jitsu. If Scott hadn't told me to quit falling to your hip.
Oh yeah.
And just said, just be better.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known that I was falling to my hip.
I want to take a moment to talk about someone who's been instrumental in my personal and business success. That's Johnny Barranco and his team at Barranco & Associates. For over 7 years, Johnny has been my go-to accountant and financial consultant. I can tell you that he's more than just a tax preparer. Johnny takes a holistic approach to all my financial dealings, aligning them with my long-term plans and personal lifestyle. I've recommended Johnny to several friends throughout different business groups around the country, and the feedback has been nothing short of exceptional. His expertise and service are top-notch. So if you're looking for someone who not only prepares your taxes, but also helps you strategize for the future, Johnny and his team at Barranco & Associates are the ones to call. Trust me, you won't regret it. So contact Johnny Barranco today and take the first steps towards financial peace. You're not going to regret this.
One of the things that I think we can fall into as being on a team, and sometimes needs to be called out, is when we fall back into bad habits.
Ooh.
And so I think that sometimes when we see team members that we think are slacking, they're just falling back into things that they knew that they were, that they had picked up along the way, that maybe we had a conversation about, but yet it's just a bad habit that's rolling back in. And so I think we need to be able to clarify that also, is what's a bad habit and what's actually that they've overcome that they may be falling back into, or is this just the way they are?
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, you should be able to see their tendencies and then in those one-on-ones be able to identify those and bring them back up. Yep.
Hey, guys.
Yep.
Can I throw out a thought?
Sure.
Yeah.
Don't be a C player in your marriage or relationship.
Oh.
A little overlap there.
Oh, my God.
Well, that's good.
I like it. Tim coming in with a hot take.
I'm trying to be an A player today, guys.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Are we holding you too long and your wife wants you home? Is that
So take that, Keith, with all your wisdom and being an A player in your marriage.
To be unclear is to be unkind.
I think
on both areas
yeah.
in any relationship, to be A players, we have to communicate.
Yeah.
And there's been times in my marriage, maybe the last 3 days,
Maybe.
that I've been like, I'd just rather not communicate.
Well, you have been busier than usual.
Yeah, no, but there's times when it's easier not to communicate.
Yeah.
And in leadership, as a business owner, a lot of times we let stuff go.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We just don't communicate.
We don't want the conflict right now.
Yeah. I've got too much on my plate.
Right.
It could happen at home.
Yeah. Jordan Peterson says marriage is the number one place we should have open honesty all the time. Brutal honesty.
Oof, that's tough.
Oh, God. Yes.
Yeah.
It's tough. I can be
tough.
brutally honest way other places.
I can be way more brutally honest.
Me too.
I'm trying to keep the peace sometimes at home. And maybe that's bad, but maybe I'm just being selfish.
Yeah.
With, where I'm going to be brutally honest about this. I've done that before. And turns out I was just being selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think to be brutally honest, that you better make sure that it's something you need to be brutally honest about and that you don't have any bias towards what you're being brutally honest about.
Yeah. The difference
because most of the time when I want to be brutally honest, quite frankly, it's when I just want to make a point that probably don't need to be made.
Doesn't need to be made, right? Yeah. I think the difference in a team member, business owner context, and then a partnership in life is that we are 50-50 in that whole thing. And sometimes I will forget that she doesn't work for me, you know? And I forget that she has a whole life outside of what I've got going on. And perhaps might have a lot of things going on too. And I don't see it. So it doesn't always register with me. I've gotten way better at that lately. I'd say in the last 5 years, but yeah.
And the overlap there is maybe we need to understand our team members also.
Maybe.
Also have other lives outside of work.
Well, that comes in the one-on-ones. You're going to understand if you've got a traditionally A player and they drop to a C, and you've got an open enough relationship with them, they'll tell you that they're going through a divorce, or my child is sick and I'm scared, or I've just been sick. I had a guy that is absolutely an A player that had some sort of like intestinal fungal issue for a long time, took forever to figure it out. And he looked terrible, sounded terrible, wasn't happy, to be around and just in general.
I would say
sucked.
If you have an intestinal fungal issue, you're not happy.
No, he wasn't happy. And, it was something weird. Like every time he ate, it would eat up all the nutrients except for like the sugars or something. And so he just got fatter and was pissed off about that and couldn't sleep. It was just bad. So yeah, I mean, building that relationship early and often one-on-ones, I think is the foundation of what we're talking about here, to identify C player, identify their tendencies, have the relationship, and like you said, I think that was a good way of putting it, the credibility to coach them to a higher level. And then with that coaching, you've got some credibility to push them a little bit. And maybe they want to do better for you because they do understand that you want them to be successful, not just make more money off of them.
Right. So managing out,
Yeah.
document,
Yeah.
communicate, action plan,
Mm-hmm.
provide support, like we were talking about.
Yep.
And then regular one-on-ones.
Regular one-on-ones, and then ultimately you're going to have to make a decision.
Yeah.
You got to put a time limit on it. I don't, and it could be a time limit that you discuss with them. It could be one in your head.
You think that's position specific?
I think, yeah, totally.
I don't think we can say, okay, you give them 3 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably tough, but but you got to have a time limit so it doesn't just keep dragging on. It could be something that you discuss with them, or it could be something internal in your head. Like, let me see how the next two months work out. And I'm gonna do everything I can to help them over the next 2 months, or maybe it's 3 months, or maybe it's 6 months. I don't know. Maybe it's 6 weeks. It is position specific. So, I think more importantly is how do you kind of avoid having C players on the team, if you can. And what can you do to maybe test for those and look for them?
Yeah, I think you just got to go back to the identification.
So there's no real test questions, there's nothing, no PhDs that put together a recruitment questionnaire for this. But
do you do the whole 90-day, you're on?
Oh yeah, probation. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. I have been burned by that before, where hiring a con person and then you got to let them go in 60 days, but we didn't hold them to the same rigors of a 90-day probationary period, and there they are getting unemployment and all these other benefits that end up being an expense and a drag on us. Where, no man, we need a date for 90 days. I'll pay you, but you're not truly on the team until we get past that 90 days.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So in that interview process, some questions that we settled on were, what were you hired to do, and did you accomplish it? And what you're looking for is, how and who takes responsibility for the failures or the high performance.
Yeah, I think this is a good indication of identifying a C person too. Is, are they always blaming others?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say some of the I don't know if this is the right term. Some of the best C players I've ever had were super humble, would never blame anyone else, fell on their sword immediately, would admit openly and honestly it was my fault, and then we would move on, and performance wouldn't change.
That's where their lack of motivation comes in.
Maybe it was just capacity.
Yeah, that's too.
The GWC and EOS, how about that for some letters I just threw out there? But, gets it, wants it, and has the capacity. They can get it. They can want it. They just don't have the capacity to think and operate at that level. It's not their fault, doesn't make them a bad person. It just makes them a C player in that role. But they can want it all they want. But if they don't have the capacity, they can't do it. I could want it all. I could work out every day and go as hard as I possibly can. I'm probably not ever going to make it to the CrossFit Games. That's not a goal of mine by any means, but you get what I'm saying. Like, those people are ridiculous. It's never going to happen. I just do not have the capacity. So there you go. Some people don't have the capacity.
Well, yeah, and you have, I think this is another thing we need to think about. Like, you're not going to make it to the CrossFit Games because you also have some limitations to it.
Yeah. Probably. Maybe in the Masters division.
You could make the Masters.
I don't know. No. Have you seen? Yeah, never mind. No.
But anyway. So we need to think about so does this individual have limitations that's not allowing them to do what we've asked them to do?
And I was really saying that we should be able to, we should be looking for that in the hiring process.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah, you can find that. And
well, maybe you can. It's hard, but what were you hired to do, and did you accomplish it? And just you're looking to see how they answer that. Another good question is, what were your biggest accomplishments in your last job? And then hear what they say, and are they describing real achievements or just routine tasks? That's like, do they want a pat on the back for making 10 calls a week because they're a salesperson? That's a pretty low number, by the way, but making 10 calls a day, I made 50 calls a week. Well, what were your metrics? Make 50 calls a week.
I think this applies sometimes. Depending upon the difficulty of the job you're asking them to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're hiring a new person, and they worked at McDonald's last,
sure,
yeah, you know what I mean.
That's a good point.
Like this really is position specific. Whether you need to ask that,
yeah, and a high level, a higher level.
Yeah,
this might be mid management, something like that. But either way,
just to put this in perspective in your world, I don't think you can ask a guy that came off a mower and you've moved
what were your
him.
biggest accomplishments? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if they're good, they would go, well, my efficiency rating stayed above 95% the entire year. And many times I filled in on other routes and I trained up at least 4 other people to become foreman. If you said that to me, no one's going to say that, by the way. Yeah. If you said that to me and you were, I would go, oh, okay. You're probably an account manager. You're probably, man, let's get you on the fast track to managing the department,
Right.
You understand what it takes to sort of build a layer underneath you so you can elevate.
Yeah.
That dude is, or female, or that chick, either one, understands like how they get ahead and the nuances within it. Not just, if you think clocking in Monday through Friday from 7 to 4:30 and not thinking about work outside of that is going to make you an A player, it's not. We have those kind of conversations all the time. You're going to have to do a little bit more to elevate above a C player. Because that's just a C performance. It's average. It's average at best. And so, what are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you thinking about? What changes are you making to improve performance? Even at that low level, the field level or that frontline level. I've got some people that will, how can I use this software a little better? Oh, I can upload photos and put pictures and text in it. And so others can see what I've got going on here. Maybe I start a thread on what is this plant, or what is this disease? And I can start getting that out there, and it improves my knowledge, but it also improves others as we do it. I mean, that's someone that's thinking 3-dimensionally.
Sure. And I think you can identify C players by the lack of ability to solve problems.
Yeah, I agree. All right. You got any other questions?
No, I was just thinking when I did get a job one time because I worked at Subway.
Oh, yeah?
And I told the job I was wanting that I made really great looking subs.
Oh, sandwich artist.
Yeah, I really was a sandwich artist.
I used to really like Subway. I don't think I do anymore.
The BMT at Subway is still pretty legit.
I love Firehouse. That steam
I do
sub.
too.
Oh, my God.
Firehouse is good.
All of them. Hook and ladder. Lenny's, I like.
Yep.
I like Lenny's. Ooh, the pepper relish. God, I'm getting so hungry.
Subway is like a C player in my book.
Yeah, Subway's a C sub.
Firehouse is more in the A.
It's definitely an A. They do a little bit more. Whatever happened to Quiznos? I thought they were great too with the toasted.
Both of you guys may need to look at the profitability of a Subway versus a Firehouse.
That's true.
I mean, if you look at the largest franchise, I believe they still hold it.
Subway?
Not
McDonald's?
Nope.
Oh, man. It's interesting.
I mean, I'll have to publish that research, but I believe they took over McDonald's. Now, that could be because they are smaller footprint.
Maybe.
Maybe cheaper buy-in.
Maybe
so. Who knows?
Well, Well, C players, they're tough, man. They're tough to identify. They're tough to know what to do with them. They cause a lot of heartache and a lot of headache because most of them you really like. Most of them you think they're one coaching meeting away from being A players. You spend a lot of time. They can affect the morale of the team because the other team see them for what they are instead of you seeing them for what they could be. And that, that just makes it really, really difficult.
And this is something we need to talk about. I just Googled it. Guys, Subway is the largest Subway franchise.
Subway is the largest Subway.
Subway is the largest sub franchise.
Oh, okay.
In the world.
Well, yeah. They've been at even though they had Jared as a spokesperson for a while.
That set them back just a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know that anyone remembers that whole debacle. So C players can get you to the point where you need to have a hard conversation. And if we did an episode all on that. It was the last episode, actually. So episode 152, saying the hard things and crucial conversations. If you need some help with that, on how to execute those, just go back and listen to that one if you haven't listened to it. But C players, usually you're going to have a hard conversation to get them to be an A player or ultimately get them to see that it's not a good fit and we need to transition them to someplace else where they can be successful. All right. Well, that's all I got to say about that.
That's good.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Thanks for supporting our sponsors, and we really appreciate it.
Peace.